I can still hear my brother's voice in my head, angry, defensive, blaming me for what happened. It doesn't seem real, even now, years later, as I think back to the day my world was turned upside down. But it happened, and what's worse is the fact that, in the end, my own family sided with her. It all started with a phone call. It was a Tuesday, and I had just finished up a meeting at work, ready to get home and unwind. My phone buzzed with a text message from my brother, Ryan. The message was simple enough. Hey, can you talk? Something weird came up. I didn't think much of it at the time. Ryan and I had always been close, despite the age gap between us. He's 3 years younger than me, but we've always had each other's backs. But this time, the something weird turned out to be more than I could have ever imagined. I called him back, expecting it to be something minor, maybe a miscommunication or an argument with his girlfriend, Sarah. He had a tendency to get into petty disagreements with her, but I never thought it was anything that could lead to real trouble. When Ryan answered, I immediately heard the panic in his voice. You're not going to believe this, he started. Sarah just got a new car, a brand new SUV, and, well, it's in your name. I sat up straight. What? What do you mean in my name? I mean, the car is registered to you. She used your information to buy it. A cold chill ran down my spine. This couldn't be happening. How? Why? What the hell do you mean she used my information? How did she even get it? I asked, struggling to understand. Ryan sighed and I could hear the stress in his voice. I don't know, man. She didn't tell me how. But she went to the dealership and they told me they couldn't process the purchase without her providing your name. Apparently she already had all your details. Social security number, address, everything. I had no idea she was doing this. I didn't know how bad it was until I found out. I was stunned, my mind racing. How could Sarah, of all people, do something so reckless, so invasive? And how did she even get my personal information? I was an adult with a steady job, a decent credit score, someone who had always kept my finances in check. The idea of someone stealing my identity, especially someone so close to me, felt like a violation on a level I hadn't yet experienced. I remember sitting there for a few moments, trying to process everything. I had to ask the obvious question. How did you not know? Ryan, you're my brother. How could you let this happen? I didn't know. I swear I didn't know she'd go this far. Ryan's voice was shaky, and I could hear the guilt in it. I didn't know she'd take it this far, and now we have to deal with this. It was like a punch to the gut. I'd known Sarah for a long time, and while I didn't always like the way she treated Ryan sometimes, I never thought she was capable of something like this. Stealing someone's identity, forging documents, and going through with it. This was no petty lie. This was criminal. What did you do? I asked, barely able to keep my voice steady. We're trying to sort it out. She's freaking out. I'm trying to get the dealership to reverse it, but they're saying it's already been processed. I don't know what to do. I can't believe she did this. Ryan, this is insane, I said. You need to call the police. This is fraud. I know, he said quickly, his voice desperate. I'm trying, but right now I'm just trying to fix it. I don't want to make things worse. Well, you have to make things right. You need to call the bank, the credit agency, someone. This is my name, Ryan. Do you realize what could happen to my credit, to my future? I could feel my frustration growing by the second. She can't just get away with this. That's when the conversation took a turn I wasn't prepared for. Ryan's voice became quieter, and there was something defensive in his tone. Look, I'm trying, okay? But I can't believe you're making this about you right now. Sarah is scared. You should be helping us, not making it worse. I froze. What do you mean making it worse? I'm the one whose identity was stolen. I'm the one who's going to be affected by this. Ryan exhaled sharply, and there was a long silence on the other end of the line. I don't know what you want me to say. This is all a mess, and you're not helping. You're making it harder on both of us. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You've got to be kidding me. You're defending her. You're defending her after she did this to me? I'm not defending her, but you don't understand. You've been so cold to Sarah, and now she's going through this. It's just a mistake, okay? It's not like she's trying to ruin your life. I couldn't believe my ears. I was trying to get my life back in order, trying to understand how Sarah had crossed so many lines and Ryan was making excuses for her. It felt like I was trapped in some surreal nightmare. I don't even know what to say to you right now, I said, my voice breaking as the frustration and confusion overwhelmed me. You're my brother and you're blaming me for this? This is your girlfriend, Ryan. She did this to me, and you're siding with her? Ryan's voice hardened. You're not listening to me. I'm trying to fix this. I'm doing everything I can, but you need to stop being so angry. We're family. It was the last line that broke me. You're right, Ryan. We are family, and right now you're choosing her over me. He didn't respond after that. He just hung up. I sat there in disbelief. My own brother had just stood there defending his girlfriend after everything that had happened. He didn't understand the gravity of what Sarah had done. Identity theft wasn't just about a few charges on a credit card. It was about trust, about breaking the sacred bond that family is supposed to represent, and I wasn't sure if I could fix it, if I even wanted to. In the following days, I started taking action on my own. I contacted my bank, reported the identity theft, and froze my credit. The process was tedious and soul-sucking. Every phone call, every email felt like I was walking through a fog, unable to see the end of it. But I knew I had to. It wasn't just about the car, the money. It was about making sure this never happened again. What I didn't expect, however, was the fallout with my parents. Ryan had told them everything, and when I called them to explain what happened, their reaction wasn't what I had hoped for. Instead of being outraged, they said, "Well, Sarah's a good girl. She didn't mean any harm. You need to understand that." "Understand what?" I asked, my voice trembling with disbelief. "She stole my identity. She committed fraud. And you're telling me to understand her? Well, maybe you should have been more careful with your information," my mom added. That sentence sent me spiraling. How could they be so dismissive of what had happened? My own parents, the people who had always preached about family values, were now telling me that I was somehow at fault. They were blaming me for Sarah's actions. They didn't understand the severity of what was at stake, and it felt like they had abandoned me too. When I finally confronted Sarah about the car, I thought I could at least get some kind of apology, some kind of explanation, but she didn't take responsibility. Instead, she played the victim, saying things like, "I didn't think it was a big deal, and I was just trying to get something for us." She refused to acknowledge the damage she had done to me, to my credit, to everything I had worked for. The worst part wasn't just the betrayal. It was the fact that my family had chosen to stand by her. Ryan, my parents, none of them seemed to care that I had been wronged. They were more concerned with protecting Sarah's feelings than facing the truth. It felt like a double betrayal. I wasn't just hurt by Sarah. I was hurt by the people who were supposed to have my back. And in the end, they made it clear that they would always choose her over me. And that's when I realized, sometimes the hardest truth to face is that the people who are supposed to love you the most can hurt you the deepest. The days after everything blew up were a blur. I was running on autopilot, dealing with the aftermath of the identity theft, trying to repair my credit, and dealing with my family's apathy. But through it all, there was a part of me that felt like I was losing something deeper than just trust. It wasn't just about the car or the money. It was about my own family choosing Sarah over me, about feeling like I wasn't important enough to be protected, to be heard. And the worst part? They didn't even seem to realize the damage they were doing. I spent hours on the phone with my bank and credit agencies, working through paperwork, signing affidavits, and filing police reports. The whole process felt like a never-ending loop of frustration. Every time I thought I was getting closer to resolving it, there was another form to fill out, another question to answer. It felt like a part of me was being slowly chipped away, piece by piece. Meanwhile, my parents had no interest in hearing about the stress I was under. When I told them about the hours I was spending on the phone with customer service, about the financial damage Sarah's actions had caused, all they said was, "You should have been more careful with your information." I couldn't even begin to process that. More careful? I had trusted my family, my own brother's girlfriend, and now my identity was being stolen right out from under me, and they blamed me? It wasn't just my parents. Ryan had reached out after the initial confrontation, trying to make things right, but even his apology felt hollow. He texted me, saying things like, "I know I messed up, and I'm trying to fix this, but I think you're being too hard on Sarah. She didn't mean any harm. She was just trying to help." I read those words over and over, and every time they made me feel more and more like a stranger in my own family. "Help?" I muttered to myself. "Help? Is that what we're calling fraud now?" The truth was, I couldn't help but feel betrayed, not just by Sarah, but by everyone who had dismissed what had happened to me. I felt like I was being gaslighted. They were all trying to make me believe that this wasn't a big deal, that I was overreacting. But the reality was, this was a big deal. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. It was a violation of trust, an invasion of privacy, and it was happening right under my nose. But I couldn't let myself spiral. I had Sarah's actions to deal with, and I knew that if I didn't take charge, nothing would change. It was time to stop waiting for my family to come to their senses and start dealing with this on my own. So I did what I had to do. I set boundaries. I cut off the constant stream of excuses. I cut off the family who kept defending Sarah, who kept telling me I should just let it go. I went to the police station one afternoon and filed an official report. I had all the evidence, bank statements, emails, recorded conversations with the dealership, and I handed it over. The officer who helped me was patient, understanding, and most importantly, didn't treat me like I was making a big deal out of nothing. He listened. That meant something. A few days after I filed the report, I got a call from the dealership. They told me that they had started an investigation into Sarah's actions, and that they had alerted the authorities. It wasn't much, but it was something. I wasn't alone in this fight anymore. At least I didn't feel like I was. The weight had shifted slightly, and I could breathe for the first time in weeks, but I knew there was still a long road ahead of me. The damage had already been done. My credit was in the process of being fixed, but I couldn't help but think about the long-term effects. Would I ever be able to repair the relationship with my family? Would they ever see what Sarah had done? Or would they continue to brush it under the rug because it was easier than facing the truth? And then, just when I thought I had started to regain some sense of control, I got a text from Ryan. It was simple. We need to talk. I didn't want to talk to him. Not after everything. But I had to. I had to face this head on. So I called him back. Hey, he answered, his voice quiet, almost hesitant. Ryan, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. What do you need to say? Because I'm honestly not sure there's anything left to say after what happened. I've been thinking a lot, he said. And I don't think you understand. Sarah wasn't trying to hurt you. She didn't mean for any of this to happen. I should have stopped her earlier, but I didn't. I didn't think it would go this far. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Ryan, you're still defending her? You're still making excuses for what she did. You're defending someone who used my identity to buy a car, and now you're telling me she didn't mean any harm. I didn't mean it like that, he said quickly, but his voice faltered. I don't know what else to say. I feel like I've lost you. You haven't lost me, Ryan, I said, my voice softening despite myself, but I'm not sure I can trust you again. You let this happen. You didn't stop her, and now everything's a mess. You should have been the one to put your foot down. You should have been the one to stop this before it went too far. There was a long pause, and then he sighed. I'm sorry, man. I'm really sorry. I should have done more. I was just too afraid of losing her, and now I'm afraid I've lost you too. I didn't know how to respond. My brother, my family, was apologizing, but it wasn't enough. The damage had been done. The trust had been broken, not just by Sarah, but by everyone who had kept me in the dark about what was going on. I need time, Ryan, I said. I need time to figure this out. But right now, I can't keep pretending like nothing happened. I can't just go back to how things were. He didn't say anything for a long time. I get it, he finally said. But just know that I'm here. I'll be here when you're ready. I hung up the phone, feeling like I was carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders. I didn't know if I could ever go back to the way things were. I didn't know if I could ever trust my brother again, or if Sarah and I would ever have a relationship again. But I knew one thing for sure. I couldn't live in the past anymore. I had to move forward, for my own sake. The next few weeks were a blur. I focused on getting my life back in order, sorting out the financial mess Sarah had caused, dealing with the emotional aftermath, and slowly, tentatively, rebuilding my relationship with Ryan. It wasn't easy. There were still long conversations with Sarah, some apologetic, some full of excuses, but I wasn't interested in hearing them anymore. I wasn't interested in being the person who forgave everyone just because they were family. I wasn't interested in pretending like everything was okay. At some point, I stopped trying to fix it all. I realized that some things couldn't be fixed. Some people had already shown me who they were, and all I could do was decide whether or not I was going to let them keep hurting me. Sarah had stolen more than just my identity. She'd stolen my peace, my trust, and my sense of safety. But in the end, I realized that the only thing I could control was how I responded. I wasn't going to let her or my family keep playing this game. I wasn't going to let their actions define me anymore. It took time, but eventually, I found a new sense of normal. My credit was repaired. My relationships with my family were slowly mended, though they would never be the same, and I moved on. I couldn't forget what had happened, but I could choose not to let it hold me back, and that's exactly what I did.